Between January 1st and December 26th, I spent 1,108 hours and 30 minutes going after my 2025 goals. And so all of these hours are in pursuit of my 4 annual goals, which are writing, reading, content creation, and Korean language learning. I did create a video for my mid-year recap if you want to watch that to see what I was able to accomplish during the first half of the year. But today I'm going to focus on my full year's total while doing some comparing and contrasting of what I was able to accomplish during the first half as well as what I was able to accomplish during the second half, and to some extent what I accomplished last year compared to what I was able to accomplish this year. So while I do only have 4 annual goals, they are divided up into 8 weekly tasks, and so these are how all of my hours were spent. In 2025, I spent 494 hours and 45 minutes on my novel writing. I spent 123 hours and 45 minutes on my academic writing. I spent 93 hours and 30 minutes reading novels. 60 hours and 15 minutes reading academic text, 47 hours and 30 minutes writing my social media scripts, 162 hours editing content for social media, 94 hours and 30 minutes doing my Korean self-study learning, and then 33 hours of Korean language learning classes. And so when I collapse these 8 tasks back into my 4 annual goals, I spent 867 hours and 30 minutes writing, 178 hours and 45 minutes on content creation, 127 hours and 30 minutes learning Korean, and 136 hours and 15 minutes reading. When compared to the first half of the year, I wrote 13.9% more in the first half than I did in the second half. I spent 9.5% more on creating social media content in the second half of the year than I did in the first half. I spent 3.8% more time learning Korean in the second half of the year. And I spent 0.5% more time reading in the second half of the year, but for the most part, I would say both halves were pretty consistent. My most productive week of the year, actually I had 2 really productive weeks. The first week happened in the first half of the year. That was February 10th through the 16th. And then in the second half of the year, November 17th through the 23rd. During both of those weeks, I spent 31 hours and 45 minutes going after my 4 goals. And then my least productive week ended up being December 15th through 21st, which always ends up happening because it's the end of the semester, and I was also grading, and I was also house sitting this adorable dog, and so I was actually using that as a time to recuperate from the semester before going into finishing grading and into the rest of break. And I'll tell you about all of the things that I have to do during winter break in order to start hitting my early 2026 goals. So that least productive week, I spent 12 hours and 30 minutes towards my goals. Now, when we talk about all of the hours spent towards my novel writing, the biggest outcome is that I finished the 5th draft of my YA contemporary novel, which is actually kind of bananas because it took me a year to do the first draft. So I started the first draft in November of 2023. I finished the first draft in November of 2024. And then between November 2024 and December 2025, I was able to go through four additional drafts. I finished the 5th draft on December 20th, and that was really great because the year did start off with my 75 Hard for Writers Challenge, so I was able to get a lot of writing then And then in November, as you may know, I also did the 30 Hard for Writers Challenge. And so then I was able to do another large chunk of writing. So I ended up being able to finish the draft by December, even though I actually thought it was going to take me until the end of January to complete this draft. So having both of those challenges, one at the beginning of the year and one at the end of the year, actually really helped me to get this fifth draft done. My biggest issue is that this fifth draft is 120,685 words. So I do have a lot of work to do for the sixth draft, which I am going to start working on in February of next year. I'm giving myself this 5-6 week break in order to get some space because I am going to have to do a lot of cutting. My hope is to cut about 30,000 words in order to get it to about a 90,000 word manuscript before moving into the querying stage, keeping my fingers crossed by the summer. In the mid-year video, I did talk about wanting to submit my manuscript to Smoochpit, which occurred this past October. Unfortunately, I didn't finish the draft until December, so I wasn't able to submit to Smoochpit. If for some reason I am still in the querying trenches next October, or I should say this October 2026, then I will go ahead and submit to Smoochpit. But keeping my fingers crossed that I will have moved out of the querying trenches by fall, but if not, I will definitely go ahead and submit to Smoochpit in October of 2026. I will also keep you posted on my querying journey throughout the second half of 2026 as well. Regarding my academic writing, and I said this in my mid-year recap video, I had started working on chapter 1 of my monograph, so I'm not writing my chapters in order, but I had already completed my introduction. I had written chapter 4, and then I had started chapter 1 at the beginning of this year. I abandoned it after about 4,000 words because I had these other deadlines that I needed to meet. I got a revise and accept from Girlhood Studies journal, so I need to submit those revisions by May of this year in order for the final publication, which will happen in December of this year. And that article is looking at representations of Black girlhood since the publication of Mildred D. Taylor's Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, which is turning 50 years old this year. I also submitted an article to the American Journal of Play, which is actually an interview between Connie Porter and I on the American Girl doll Addie Walker. I submitted my final draft in early December, and I should be receiving feedback sometime this month. So you'll be seeing this video in January. So I'm just going to start saying this month and this year. So I should be receiving feedback, and I will be notified whether it is going to be officially published. If it is published, which keeping my fingers crossed it will be in their fall publication. And then lastly, I have an article that I've been working on for over a year. It is due January 15th. That particular article is looking at the intersection of girlhood and activism in children's literature. So keeping my fingers crossed, that article also gets published, and if it does, it will be published this fall. So looking at all of those articles, if everything goes according to plan, I will have 3 publications out by the end of this year. One of the other deadlines that I have going on, I'm currently working on an anthology project, and I have to submit the anthology proposal to my editor by the end of January. At least that's when I told her I was going to get her the proposal. So I am also working hard on that as well. And then, if everything goes well, I get my 3 publications, the anthology proposal is submitted and accepted, I will start working on another article this summer. And this is when I'm going to start to bring in my sort of kind of Korean studies intersection into my work. So I will definitely keep you posted on that in my next update video. In October, I wrote a conference abstract to the Children's Literature Association conference this summer, so May of 2026. I should find out in the next month or two whether my abstract panel has been accepted. And then in 2025, I gave 2 presentations, 1 teacher's workshop, and then for 2026, I already have 3 research presentations scheduled. I have one in February at my university. I have one in March, which is virtual. And then I'm giving another teacher's workshop in July, and that one is also virtual. I do have one more presentation pending, or maybe 2 more, but if those are likely to happen, they're more likely to happen in the spring, so give or take March or April. Regarding my novel reading, I did read 12 books this year, and I just released my reading wrap-up, so I will also go ahead and put that in the description box below if you are interested in seeing the books that I read and also hearing my reviews of them. In 2024, I read 2 books a month, and then in 2025, I was only able to read 1 book a month. But my plan is to go back to reading 2 books a month in 2026 because my reading actually directly impacts my writing. The more I'm able to read, the more I'm able to develop original research, and then I am able to then write that in articles and presentations. So because my reading and my writing are direct links, the more I read, the more I write, so it's a win-win on both occasions. As for my academic reading, I read 3 academic books this year. I read Catherine Capshaw's Civil Rights, Childhood, Picturing Liberation in African American Photo Books. Highly recommend. And then I also read An American Girl Anthology, which was published by University of Mississippi Press. And I read Dolls of Our Lives by Mary Mahoney and Allison Horrocks. And I'm currently reading Playing with America's Dolls by Emily Zaslow. I do plan on doing a reading wrap-up of these 3 American Girl books since I am reading them because I am developing a long-term project on American Girl, specifically on Addie Walker. But reading these books have given me a good general overall view of what is happening in the research of American Girl. For content creation and social media, I posted 84 times on Instagram this year. I posted 36 times in the first half of the year and 48 times in the second half of the year. So I was able to increase my post more, but only slightly in the second half. This year, or in 2025, I gained 79 followers, so I am currently at 359 followers. In 2024, I gained 70 followers, so I am up 9 more followers this year, which is really great for me. That just goes to show that I am steadily growing in a sustainable way. And I'm still trying to figure out who I am on Instagram and who I am on YouTube, whether I post more content about my writing or whether I should post more content about being a professor. So as I continue to sort through that, then I think once that happens, I'll be able to find my audience, or perhaps it'll always just be a hodgepodge of all the things I do, whether that is Korean language learning or being a professor or what I'm currently reading and writing. I do want to do a few more behind the scenes. I love watching writing vlogs. I love watching sort of kind of in the day of a life of a teacher or in the day of a life of a professor. I'm going to attempt to do those in 2026 and see how I feel about them. But if you have any suggestions on what you would like to see or what you would like me to talk more about, feel free to leave those suggestions in the comments below. Now, as for YouTube, I posted 13 videos this year, and that's great because my goal was to post 12 videos. So I am actually happy that I was able to reach that goal. The original goal was to actually post once a month. I wasn't able to hit that because life, but technically with the 12 videos, at least that is an average of once a month. But my hope is to be more consistent with YouTube in 2026 to be able to post at least 1 video a month, which is a good pace for me. I do want to change one of my YouTube strategies, which is to post my updates quarterly instead of just 2 times a year. So you'll be seeing these kind of videos from me once a quarter or at the end of every quarter versus just in the mid-year and at the end of the year. And I think that's because these are my favorite videos to make. It also keeps me motivated, and I always like watching people's update or progress update videos. So I figured, why not just release a few more of them quarterly? In that way, since I am going to be moving more towards querying and also other kinds of publications, it'll be good to be able to track them a little bit more consistently than just the 2 times a year. Now, regarding subscribers, I've gained 145 subscribers to my YouTube channel this year. If you have subscribed, thank you for subscribing. If you haven't, just go ahead and click that subscribe button now. I am close to 500 subscribers. I'm currently at 494, which is very exciting. And my plan is to do a 500 subscriber Q&A. So if you have any questions for me, feel free to put them in the comments below, and I will go ahead and answer them in that 500 subscriber Q&A. I should say in those content creation hours, I do not add filming hours. So I generally only document my scripting and editing hours. So I would probably add an additional 50 hours to make that number more accurate. I don't do it in my spreadsheet, but when I do think about it, it probably takes me an additional 50 hours of filming time in order to get out all of this material. Now, for my Korean language learning this year, I took and passed the Topic 1 exam. And I was only one question away from getting level 2 on the Topic 1. I'm still really proud of myself, first of all, for studying for the topic, taking the topic, and then being only one question away from getting that level 2. I have started scripting a video on my experience taking the Topic 1 exam. I feel like a lot of the videos I see online are about taking the Topic 2. I took the Topic 1 at the Korean Cultural Center in LA, so I should be finishing and recording that video sometime in January or February. So feel free to look out for that if you are also someone who's interested in taking the Korean proficiency language exam. For the first half of the year, I was still working with my tutor of 2 years. Then I left for Korea, and I will also link my Korea research vlog for you down below if you're interested in seeing all the things that I did in Korea. But when I got back, I ended up enrolling, and I started in September. I ended up enrolling in the Korean Cultural Center of LA. They have an online synchronous Korean language course. It is 12 weeks. I ended up signing up for the level 1 basic course, which actually was perfect for me because that is where my grammar level is. It was 2 hours every week, and while it was a really great class, I won't be signing up for it this year because the synchronicity was difficult for me. However, I do plan on signing up for asynchronous courses, either through the King Sejong Institute or through the Talk to Me in Korean courses. I already have some of the Talk to Me in Korean textbooks, and so I really like their platform, and I also really like their teaching styles. But because the course that I took through the Korean Cultural Center was through King Sejong's Institute, I'm also thinking about signing up for their free asynchronous courses as well. So when I calculate my 2 official years of learning Korean, I've spent 277 hours and 45 minutes self-studying as well as being in courses, which puts me at a solid A2 level. I don't plan on taking the Topic 1 again, plus my scores are good for 2 years. I think if I do take the topic, it won't be for another couple of years. I think it's just helpful to know what level I'm at. So maybe sometime in the future, I will start preparing for the Topic 2 and then take it when I am ready. So just to recap, in 2026, I am going to continue with these 4 goals of writing, reading, content creation, and Korean language learning, with my main goal for writing to be querying my novel this year. And then my main goal for my academic writing is to get those 3 publications as well as that anthology proposal. I'm also going to be putting on my calendar the 2 books that I will be reading each month. I'm actually going to start this year off with Tokyo Ever After by Emiko Jean. And then as for YouTube, I'm going to keep publishing, this time once a month. And then as for Instagram, I'm going to keep posting some of what I'm reading, but also some of what I'm writing. And then I'm going to test out some short form reels of behind the scenes of my writing, of my reading, and potentially even the behind the scenes of my content creation. And then as for Korean, I'm going to sign up for an asynchronous course as well as continue my self-study learning, which generally is about 30 to 60 minutes, Monday through Friday. So from what I can see here, I have gone over all of my goals and have looked at what my plans are for 2026. So what are your goals for 2026? Feel free to let me know in the comments down below. And don't forget, if you want to submit a question for my 500 subscriber Q&A, go ahead and leave that question down below as well. And as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for watching in 2025, and thank you for watching in 2026. And I will see you in the next video.